This episode is a special encore presentation of Work Trends. Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Hello, and everyone. Welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast, brought to you by our special guest and sponsor, Emmy. We are so glad you're joining us here at Talent Culture, the place to find meaningful connections at work. Speaking of Talent Culture, our new and improved website is coming very soon, friends, and we are excited to share it with you. It will even include a better podcast experience on the site for all of you loyal listeners for Work Trends episodes. So there you go. Be on the lookout at talentculture.com, and we'll be sure to tell you when it's live. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro, and today we're talking about the critical employees on our front lines, discussing how to find, recruit, hire, and onboard them effectively. But before we jump into today's podcast, go ahead and ask yourself these two questions. Number one, do you have a strong grasp on the DNA of your industry's frontline employees? And number two, how are you currently sourcing deskless employees, and is it working? We are here to discuss this important subset of the employee population and hopefully deliver some juicy takeaways that improve your ongoing interactions with them. Let's take a look at some important points to set the stage. According to various sources, frontline workers make up 70 to 80% of the global workforce. That's about 2.7 billion people. Pew Research says that frontline workers are present in a wide range of industries, with more concentrations in healthcare, retail, transportation, public safety, education, and construction. The Bureau of Labor Statistics states that frontline jobs are projected to grow by 7% by 2030, faster than the average job growth rate of 5%. We're also going to be digging into Emmy's research report, the 2024 Frontline Recruiting Benchmarks for Talent Acquisition Leaders, in today's episode. Emmy leveraged known data from 2018 to 2023, encompassing the hiring process of over 3.4 million frontline candidates. The study offers valuable insights into performance, trends, and characteristics of the frontline workforce. So let's learn more. Here to discuss the topic of recruiting frontline talent is Matteo Cavasotto from Emmy. Allow me to tell you a bit more about him. Matteo Cavasotto is co-founder and CEO at Emmy, where he and the team are creating solutions that revolutionize the way we engage with and hire frontline workers globally. Before founding Emmy, Matteo worked at Quasar Ventures, where he helped entrepreneurs develop their ideas, business models, and capital raising processes. I am so glad you're here today, Matteo.
Hi, Megan. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I tell you, we have a strong community of recruiters and leaders across the globe with such a wide breadth of industries. So I know if you're out there listening today, tune in, grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever you'd like, your beverage of choice, and let's dive in, because if the rumor is correct, Matteo, you are in Argentina today. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm visiting family. Came here for a couple of weeks to visit family. I'm originally from here, from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Currently living in California, but now I'm in the warmth of Buenos Aires.
That sounds remarkable and amazing. And you know what? There's nothing more important than family.
Definitely.
So there you go. You're building culture, right? With your family.
Yes. Yeah, that's the base of the culture, your values, your beliefs, and that's how later you work and try to change the world.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's begin by defining a frontline worker and contextualizing the first Emmy annual benchmarks report that was published in October 2023. Can you tell us a little bit more about the report?
So, of course. So let me start with the frontline worker definition. For us, frontline workers are any worker that is not working behind a desk. So, for example, this includes, of course, hourly workers, and the frontline workers make up more than 50% of the US workforce. So it's like a huge segment, and it includes different industries like logistics, manufacturing, food production, hospitality, dining, retail, and many other segments. And a core definition of frontline workers is that frontline workers are in their day-to-day life while they work. They're not behind a computer. So how they engage with technology, it's pretty different from, for example, knowledge workers, people that are working all day behind a computer. So we created this report because we think that, first of all, it's a super relevant workforce, a super important workforce, the frontline workers. And we believe that to solve problems, you need to understand the workforce you're trying to address. So this report that we put together, it's an effort to try to get to know better these frontline workers.
Thank you so much for doing that, because I often say that I feel like frontline workers get left behind, especially when it comes to data. And so I'm excited to talk to the audience today just about this great report. I mean, you did so much good work there. And the fact that you went so deep into manufacturing and the food production and the hospitality, right? Industrial goods, the retail sectors. I mean, these are people who need that support. They need champions that are saying, you matter, right? We get you, we're listening.
They matter, they deserve. But also, if we look at it from different lenses, also these workers are crucial for the operations of many companies where the frontline workers are strategic. So it's also like in the interest of the companies to get to know them better. And so both reasons, I think ethically, they deserve the attention, but also it's mission critical for many businesses like the retail, food production, and others.
And, the key to reaching and retaining the right talent for frontline workers is really understanding the DNA of these people, these employees, these contractors, however, they're people, right? So what does this mean to you, Matteo? What does this mean to the culture of your organization and how you define your product?
Good question. So first of all, you can't design anything, and you can design a product, you can design a solution, a process, if you are not looking to understand the people and the problems around it. So when we think about, of course, creating our product, but also empowering talent acquisition teams around the world to hire better frontline workers faster, we think that it's critical to help them get to know them. So for us, understanding the DNA of these employees, it's understanding how they're thinking, what they're prioritizing, what they care about, which are their dreams, which are their ideal career path. So, and as you mentioned, there's not a lot of data out there. So to do so, we try to gather external reports and things that other companies put together, but also we try to leverage the internal data that we have. Fortunately, our companies, they engage with millions of frontline workers a year. So we try to get insights and conclusions from that data to try to help a company, talent acquisition teams, hiring managers, understand this DNA of these employees. And the DNA for us, it's just getting to know them a bit better to try to later decide which tool should I implement, which process, how do I engage with them. That's the core idea.
What a concept, right? It is such a practice that people are putting into place, and I think more and more, to not just appeal to potential employees, but truly, truly understand where people are coming from, right? Now, let's take a short break to get an update from our advertiser, WorkHuman. We pour so much into our work, but too often it fails to meet our human needs. WorkHuman Live is HR and Leadership's award-winning conference for elevating the workplace to make it more purposeful, fulfilling, and guess what? More human. On May 12th through the 15th, minutes from Denver, join icons like Adam Grant, Cy Wakeman, and Trevor Noah to fearlessly tackle your biggest challenges at work, both individually and organizationally. Listeners can use the code WorkTrends20 at workhumanlive.com for 20% off your ticket to workplace transformation. That's WorkTrends20. Now, back to the podcast and our special podcast guest, Emmy. So let's discuss sourcing talent for frontline workers. What are the roadblocks, best channels, and potential resolutions for finding these individuals?
Good question. So starting maybe with the roadblocks, we are competing in an intense market. So first of all, we know that there's a fierce competition in the market. So we're talking about 8 million open roles right now with 6.5 million people actively seeking employment. So that's challenging. And also candidates have different expectations. And we're talking about many different generations having different expectations. So we found, for example, that 54% of genes set candidates won't complete an application if the technology is outdated or if the technology is not speaking to them, if the company is not meeting them where they are. So that's like almost 50% like of the candidates. And then you got like, yeah, that's huge.
I mean, let's do the math for a minute, right? Let's really take a moment, everybody. These numbers are staggering.
Yeah, you're spending a lot, and 50% of your candidates won't even complete your application. You don't find out about them.
That's real.
Definitely. And then millennials, that again, they have different behavior. You got like 40%. We found that 40% of millennials, they expect to use social media as their primary source to look for a job, which is different because each company, each team has its own mindset of where candidates should be looking for jobs. But the truth is that we need to understand where candidates are looking for jobs, not try to push our thoughts about that.
Time to get more creative, right? Time to understand the reality of what we're all facing right now.
Yes, definitely. And that's a process in itself because getting to know the answer of what you do, it's not absolute. There are many tools out there, there are many processes, there are many experts. So it's a challenge. In our opinion, we think that it's critical to try to use the right tool to solve these problems. Like approaching this with a one-size-fits-all approach, in our opinion, it's not the best way because we are even talking about difference in generations and how they looked for jobs. And so that's one of the ways on how we found successful companies thrive in this market. And then each industry is different. For example, two industries that we noticed have different challenges. It's retail and manufacturing. Both share the challenges of hiring frontline workers, but the specifics are a bit different. How they interview candidates, if they interview in the facility, if they interview in the store, that's pretty different. So even being more specific about how you choose a technology, how you implement that technology, knowing that not only your talent acquisition, recruit, and candidates behave in a certain way, but also the operations team, the hiring managers team. So that's I think, some ways of overcoming these roadblocks.
Okay, talent culture community, if you are charged with these tasks in your organization, I hope you're taking notes because there might be a test later. These are definitely some golden nuggets of advice we're hearing that could make your job and your life a lot easier. So let's dig into techniques and technologies. What techniques and technologies are some industries using to create effective recruiting, onboarding, and hiring deskless talent?
Another good question. I think recruitment and hiring someone, it's about building a relationship. A candidate is looking to learn about the company and the team that they will be working with. And a company is looking to learn from the candidate. And you got a process. You get a candidate gets attracted by an opening. Then they apply, they get to meet the recruiters, there's a screening process, an on-site interview sometimes, and onboarding. It's all about building trust, and it's all about communication and trying to find the best fit for both ends. And what we found around this frontline workers space is that this is done at scale. And we found that what's critical and what's effective to try to win in this market is to try to use automation and tools to enhance that communication, which is the underlying nature of the hiring process. So we found that using technology that meets the candidate where they are, trying to communicate frequently with them, trying to communicate fast with them, having a lean process, usually it's the right approach to try to hire these workers. So that's one big aspect on trying to streamline communication along the process. We can talk about screening, scheduling, onboarding, whatever stage in the process. It's all about streamlining communication, regardless of what you are doing and which tools you are using. And the other big bucket or things that we've seen of techniques and technologies that we've seen are important to achieve these goals is trying to get a better sense of what's happening in the black box of frontline recruitment. Many things are happening offline or outside of the systems because of the nature of these hiring processes. So you got data from the hiring manager or from a recruiter or from the candidate. So the other big chunk of things that people are doing to try to hire more effectively frontline workers is trying to get a better sense of KPIs, analytics on what's happening across the entire hiring process.
You said the magic word. First of all, this is HR Tech for the win, right? So thank you, Matteo, for sharing. But let's dive into another crucial component of all of this, conversion. So conversion rates are obviously a big part of the end game. So please discuss how you look at conversion, what to consider or expect, and how it varies by deskless worker versus desk workers.
The first step for us and our view on this topic is that, of course, you need to talk about overall conversion, but the conversation needs to be a bit more specific because there are different factors that are weighted in the conversion in different stages. So let's take an example. For example, one big challenge that I think is specific or more acute when you're recruiting front-end workers is the conversion rate from interest to applicant. So you got candidates that they are interested in your company, they see a job ad, but then there's a different step, a stage, which is not only showing interest, but basically completing the application so that you as a company receive that information from the candidate. So that's what we call like the conversion rate from interest to applicant. So looking at that stage and that conversion, that by the way, it's 11%, the industry standard, doing the math as we did some minutes ago, that's crazy. You are bringing in 100 candidates, and you're only getting 11 candidates. These are candidates that are interested in your company, that you're putting roadblocks in their way, and they are not being able to apply. Like looking at that specific metric in detail allows you to take action on that. That's why KPIs analytics exist, not only to show it in a presentation, it's to action on them. So I can get and talk all day about the different KPIs along the entire hiring cycle and what affects. But this is an example of like, you need to get specific and you'll get optimizations specific to that KPI or stage.
Yeah. And what I like about this, it helps people, especially people in our audience, right, set expectations and understand the differences among different demographics, because it's absolutely critical. All right. Well, time flies when we're having fun, Matteo. We've got the last question for today. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you have your seatbelt on?
Yeah.
Okay, so based on your research, what are the 3 takeaways for our listeners to consider when it comes to hiring deskless workers?
So our 3 takeaways are, first of all, if hiring frontline workers is one of your top priorities as a company or as a professional, look for the right tools to address that challenge. So try to use a tool, processes, a mindset that it's tailored to that process. That's the way of thriving, being focused on the problem and using the right tools. That's the first big conclusion. Then we found that candidates, this DNA of candidates, they really value speed. Speed from the moment, first of all, how long it takes them to complete the application, from the moment they show interest to application, then how fast they are scheduled an interview, how fast they go through the onboarding process, how fast they get information to be ready to be great at the job. So speed from the candidate point of view, it's critical. It's critical. And then the last piece of advice or takeaway that we found to try to provide the best experience for candidates and also to hit basically the business goals that the company has is trying to design a process that, of course, it's leveraged on technology, but also that understands every single stakeholder along the process. For example, a key piece in the company's hiring process, it's usually the hiring manager. And when we're talking about front-end recruitment, we're talking a hiring manager, which is probably at one of 2,000 stores, or a hiring manager that it's one of the sites of the facilities, the production facilities. So trying to understand that all the different stakeholders and designing your process for your team, that's another winning way of working that we found that companies do and that candidates really value.
Excellent insights. We have run the gamut when it comes to truly understanding frontline workers. I am so appreciative of your passion and your knowledge. So thank you for stopping by.
I'm glad I'm here. Thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed a lot of the conversation.
Okay, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground today about the entire process of bringing on and keeping frontline talent. We did discuss a few takeaways already, but here is what I believe are excellent learnings from today's conversation. Number one, it's imperative to understand the DNA of frontline employees. What makes them tick? How effectively can you reach them? What are the ways to ensure that people are set up for success? Number two, embrace the digital transformation. This allows you to reach potential employees where they are and utilize the newest tech to communicate effectively. Number three, know your industry demographics as well as the generational differences in applicants. The importance of knowing the right sources to reach people and understanding what converts is not new, but access to this information is much easier and much better than it used to be. Thank you so much, Matteo. I thoroughly enjoyed our time today. And listeners, please be sure to check out emmylabs.ai. The site is full of great case studies, blogs, ebooks, and more. And last but not least, we want to hear from you, our audience. Do you have a targeted strategy for reaching potential frontline employees? Do you have examples of how you effectively onboard your deskless employees? What industry do you work in, and what are your biggest challenges with hiring frontline workers? Visit us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram and share your responses to these questions, or feel free to contact me personally at Megan M. Biro on social. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, the place to find meaningful connections at work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Send us a question on social media using the hashtag WorkTrends. See you soon. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. You can hear all of our Work Trends podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and beyond. And be sure to subscribe so you can listen on the go and stay up to date on all the latest news you need. Catch up with you next time, and I hope today's information made you wiser, happier, and more informed.